who already gave time and energy to join this discussion, particularly to Her Excellency Ibu Yuyun Wahyuningrum, Indonesian representative to ICHR, and also Bibi Rahima. The two of them are the speakers on this discussion today. And of course, to all of you that I hope and I believe that will also give contribution based on your experience and also your knowledge to give contribution to our discussion today. As Mr. Sauki mentioned before, that today's discussion is actually a part of a series of discussion of SWACA that held by SWACA with the purpose to give information and awareness regarding law and human rights to refugee community in Indonesia. The series of discussion already conducted since 2020-2021, and with many related topics to law, human rights, and of course issues regarding dynamic of refugees and refugees communities in Indonesia. And today's discussion is freedom of expression in the time of pandemic. And as mentioned by Mr. Sauki before, this time of pandemic create, of course, several challenges and problems. One of them is freedom of expression, and I think that everybody here, we are fully aware that in the time of pandemic, government in all over the world, including Indonesia, may take some measures to prevent the spread of virus COVID-19, of course, including freedom of expression, such as to limit physical campaign and also demonstration that conducted offline. But in this issue, freedom of expression and the limitation, one of the important issues always to be discussed is whether the measure taken by the government to limit the freedom of expression is justified or not. Then, if not, with excessive limitation, then, well, it will be a kind of a human rights violation. So this, I think that one of the topic that should be discussed with the limitation imposed by the Indonesian government is justified. And then the other issue that may be discussed is, of course, I hope we can discuss law and regulation in Indonesia, including local regulations, because sometimes or in many situations, local regulations also create or lead to human rights violation in the field. Hopefully that also the representative of refugee here may also share their experience in the area of freedom of expression when they doing campaign and also other activities, and maybe they may share their challenges that they face in the field. The other issue that also mentioned by Mr. Sauki before, I do hope also that in this event, in this occasion, everybody can also share, the two speakers can also share, and you, everybody that join this event can also share and discuss what kind of campaign or a form of freedom of expression, maybe online, that we still can have in this kind of pandemic. What kind of method of campaigns in expressing opinion, doing campaign, and also other freedom of expression in the form of non-physical activities or online activities. So lastly, again, I just want to say thank you so much to the speakers, to also everybody who joined this this event, to Mr. Sauki, who is going to be the moderator of this discussion. And I do hope that this discussion may contribute to give awareness and information to, particularly to the refugees, but also can also contribute to the discussion and the protection and human rights promotion, especially for refugees, but also human rights protection and promotion in Indonesia as a whole. Thank you so much again. Selamat siang. I do hope that we will have a very fruitful and useful discussion and meaningful discussion. And I may transfer the microphone and time again to Mr. Sauki as moderator. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ibu. I appreciate that, your kind word for us, actually. I appreciate you speak about a lot of things, positive thing and negative thing. Also, you mentioned about violation. We're going to speak about that a lot today. And before we go to our first speaker, I need just I remind the SWACA teams as facilitator, please handle the time. Remind me about that. I'm so sorry about that. Let me say welcome for our first important speaker for today, Ibu Yoyani. Welcome for us. The stage yours. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Pak Sauki, Ibu Roy. Ketemu lagi. Udah lama. Thank you for having me in this event. I also thank SWACA for adjusting the time, because after this I will have another online event as well. So I appreciate your flexibility. I also would like to take this opportunity to thank and admire the work of SWACA, especially on SWACA's project in relation to refugee-centered initiatives. I've been informed, as well as I've been participating in a number of activities, and I would like to express my admiration to your commitment, perseverance, and also a very creative initiative. Okay, so within this next 20 minutes, I would like to discuss the issue on freedom of expression. Sorry, and I've prepared my presentation. I might not be able to address issues in relation to the law in Indonesia, but we can discuss, and some participants may also contribute to the ideas. Okay, my name is Yuyun Wainingrum. I'm the representative of Indonesia to the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights. It is a body at the ASEAN level responsible for human rights. The outline of presentation for today, we are going to look at the human rights situation in ASEAN member states, just quickly, and understanding ICHR, because that's the organization I belong to. And then we will talk about freedom of expression as human rights, as well as some of the practical suggestions on how to move forward using the online online space in expressing your thoughts, your opinion, and obtain some information. Just to give you some explanation about the pictures, these are the pictures and how ICHR work now. So I start from the picture on the left. So this is our meeting online. Everything now done online. But if you see the next picture, this is the physical meeting we had. It was about a meeting with civil society organization to listen their concerns and how to move forward with the civil society participation to in ICHR activity. ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights usually be called as ICHR, just to make it easier for some. And the next picture was about ASEAN Human Rights Dialogue, and now we are providing spaces in which we can talk about human rights situation of other countries without being accused of breaching a non-interference principle. Some of you may know that ASEAN way or ASEAN doing things include non-interference principle, in which we are not allowed to talk about domestic human rights issues of other countries, member of ASEAN. But non-interference principle is not unique in ASEAN. It is a norm that recognized by the UN Charter, Article 2, and there is also a UN declaration specifically talk about non-interference principle. So this is a international relations norms. This is also international law norms. But there are a number of varieties of practices in which the non-interference principle has been implemented across the world. So the picture below, that's the meeting between us, the commissioners of the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, with the ASEAN foreign ministers. So we have this kind of interface meeting every year, but since pandemic, we of course we do it everything online. These three books are the our guidance in our work, ASEAN Charter, the term of reference of ICHR, as well as the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration. So this is only just to give you some guesses about how we do things in ICHR. I would like to start with the Human Rights Constitution in ASEAN member states, because we are talking about human rights. So first we need to check whether member state in ASEAN consists of 10 countries acknowledge and recognize human rights. So we can see here in the table, on the table here, apart of Brunei, all member states include human rights in it. The degree, the variety, the depth of human rights have been different from one country to another, and how they look at how they put the human rights also very different from one country to another. But we can say that 9 countries recognize human rights. The Constitution of Brunei mentioned about the role of Sultan, the function of ministries and House of Parliaments, but not necessarily about recognizing that everyone has right that recognized by the Constitution. It just, I think, the Constitution mentioned about everyone has freedom to own to worship on their religion, but the religion of the country is Islam. So that's I think the language in Brunei Darussalam's constitution in relation to human rights. Out of 5 out of 10 ASEAN member states have national human institutions, as perhaps you know. In Indonesia called Suhakam, Komnas HAM. In Malaysia, Suhakam. In Myanmar National Human Rights Commission. In Philippines, Commission on Human Rights of the Philippines. In Thailand, it is called National Human Rights Commission of Thailand. You can also see the year of the establishment of each national human institutions, very different from one to another. There is no uniformity, except for Thailand and Malaysia. They were established in the same year, but each national human institutions has a different power. So you can see here, receive complaints. All national human rights commissions have power to receive complaint, but not all national human institutions have power on mediation. Only Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand. And also not all national human institution has power to assist in court proceeding. This is only Philippines who has power to do that. But it is not something written down on the stone. The society continue to change and evolve from time to time. Power of national human institution can also be added according to the need and according to perhaps a campaign or advocacy from civil society. Let's see now the ratification of human rights instruments. The most convention ratified by all 10 countries in Southeast Asia or in ASEAN is CEDAW on women and children, on CRC on children, and CRPD on person with disabilities. Countries ratified the most UN conventions are Cambodia, Philippines, followed by Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam. The least, the countries that least ratified the convention are Brunei, Malaysia, Singapore. So they only ratified 3: CEDAW, CRC, and CRPD, or the Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities. Okay, so now we have national human institutions, at least in 5 ASEAN countries. In Timor-Leste, there is a National Human Rights Commission, but at the moment, Timor-Leste is not yet a member of ASEAN. So that is why Timor-Leste is not included in my presentation as of now. We know that 5 countries in ASEAN have National Human Rights Commission. Why, and not all have a National Human Rights Commission, but why states in ASEAN establish regional human rights mechanism? But there is also international human rights mechanism. So this is, if you look at the illustration here, I put here 3 circles. The inner one, in the center one, is the national human rights, national mechanism on human rights, which is Komnas HAM, SOHAKAM, and etc. And then the second layer is the regional mechanism of human rights, in which now in Southeast Asia, there is ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission, or ICHR. And then outer circle is this international mechanism like UN, for instance. So why a national human rights mechanism located in the inner circle of this illustration? It is because that National Human Rights Commission, the one who has the responsibility to promote and protect human rights, they are closer to the people. And the regional and international mechanism function mainly to complement the National Human Rights Commission. So there shouldn't be a competition, there shouldn't be a substitution, but rather complementary in many ways. But the main actors usually at the national level. Now more and more countries using different approaches or additional approaches. It is called Human Rights City to make the implementation or the fulfillment of human rights closer to the people. And whenever people would like to send their grievances, they also can go to the system established by the city level government or the village level government. So it's becoming a closer and smaller to approach the people, the citizen. For regional human rights mechanism, usually some of the responsibilities mix with the promotion and protection of human rights, and the other side of the task is to diplomacy, for cooperation, and then engagement among countries. There is a politic of the relation of each country in the region, or if it is international, then international relation among states. For many states, establishing regional human rights mechanism can be serving the purpose of coming up with the regional identity for better address issues. Rather than going to international, they can go to regional. Intermediary can also function as intermediary role, and also can assist state to meet their commitment and to develop regional human rights norms. In Africa, there is a African Commission on Human and People's Rights. In Inter-Americas, there is a Inter-American Commission on Human and People's Rights, on human rights without people. In Europe, there is a European Court. Now, European Commission on Human Rights has been merged with the court. Now, Europe only has a European Court on Human Rights. So each region has their own system Some region doesn't have, like Pacific or East Asia or other region. They don't have it as of now. In ASEAN, the human rights mechanism is part of the ASEAN community, which is divided into political security, economic community, social cultural community. On the paper, ICHR is under political security community, but ICHR is also overarching, so it can go to economic community, can also engage with social cultural community. Some member states still think that human rights can be instruments for foreign countries to condition trade and international cooperation, both at the domestic level or in ASEAN at the regional level. It's also a threat to national sovereignty, but at the same time, it is open symbol of openness for members, the inclusive of ASEAN to human rights. But the creation of human rights mechanism in ASEAN community creates or facilitates a process, a space, interaction among states and relations on human rights. Before the establishment of ICHR, there was no cooperation on human rights. There was no discussion about human rights in the official manner. The discussion was about creating a mechanism. But since ICHR is established, they talk about cooperation, how to improve the protection of children, how to improve the protection of women, how to make sure our police did not torture, for instance. So that's the implication of having human rights included in the regional framework. The pace can be different from one region to another. Some region work very fast, some region work quite slow. But the idea is creation of human rights mechanism in the regional institution like ASEAN or like African Union or like Organization of American States is to create space, process, interaction, relations, cooperation on human rights among member states in that geographical cooperation.
Sorry for interrupting. Actually, you have 4 minutes left. Please continue.
Okay. So I don't have enough time to do that. Can I have another 10 minutes?
Additional times?
Yeah. So I don't even go to freedom of expression.
Okay. Not longer time.
So,
sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. So ICHR was established in 2009. So it is 12 years as of now. You can read here the function, the purpose of ICHR, and ICHR consists of 10 members, members from 10 ASEAN member states. I representing Indonesia in the ICHR. We report to ministers, foreign ministers every year, and this is the function of ICHR. Standard setting, cooperation, policy support, protection, human rights strategy, research, capacity building, dialogue, engagement. But ICHR has no power to investigate, to conduct fact-finding mission on human rights. ICHR at the moment cannot do country visit in relation to human rights situation, and lack of independence of the body and some of the commissioners. But what you can do is to use ICHR to send your complaint on human rights, because since November 2019, ICHR has adopted a complaint mechanism. So the typo, that is not compliant, it's complaint mechanism to email ICHR at ASEAN.org, or you can also send case and report that we can discuss in ICHR. You can use SWACA as well as the institution that sent the report or cases. Now, I would like to move to freedom of expression. So that's the institution that I work for. Freedom of expression mentioned and guaranteed in international laws, in Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 19, and ICCPR, International Convention, International Covenant on Civil Political Rights, Article 19. The freedom of expression, as I mentioned in the ICCPR, consists of the right to hold opinion without interference, to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds. But at the same time, the right has relation to duties and responsibilities, and it's subject to restriction. Freedom of expression is not absolute rights. It has restriction that allowed by international law, with number of requirement, number of limitation as well. Freedom of expression can be limited based on provided by the law and necessary for the respect of the right of reputation of others, for protection of national security, public order, public health, or morals. So there was a question, there was a Ibu Roy and also Pak Sauki also mentioned about limitation of freedom of expression during pandemic, whether it can be justified. According to ICCPR, at the moment, public health situation can be used as the reason to limit freedom of expression. But to what extent can be limited, until when it can be limited, that's something that has another level of discussion. We are going to that direction in a while. In ASEAN Human Rights Declaration, freedom of expression also mentioned in Article 23. And whenever we talk about ASEAN Human Rights Declaration, we always have to read together with Phnom Penh Statement on the adoption of ASEAN Human Rights Declaration, because number of things in ASEAN Human Rights Declaration require condition to certain national laws. But the Phnom Penh Statement assured that everything in the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration should follow the commitment of the Charter of United Nations, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Vienna Declaration, and Program of Action, and other international human rights instruments. So, so this is the way we should read ASEAN Human Rights Declaration. The text almost similar on this particular article with the existing international laws. So I do not have to engage into this, because the explanation about what does it mean by freedom of opinion, you can read the explanation below, which actually I took it from the concluding observation. No, general comments, sorry, general comments, not concluding. From general comments, freedom of expression also taken the explanation, interpretation taken from the general comments. Similarly with the access to information online and offline, and freedom expression in relation to the press freedom. These can be read from here, which actually taken from general comments of relevant Article 19 in ICCPR. As usual, all human rights related to the other rights. In freedom of expression related to different rights, such as fair trial, right to privacy, freedom of press, right to development, and many other rights linked to the guarantee of freedom of expression. Freedom of expression is a negative right. It means government is legally obliged to take no action against speaker based on the speaker's view, and to ensure that everyone can express themselves, whether it is opinion or seeking information, press freedom, and others. But there is no one is obliged to help any speakers to publish their views, and no one is required to listen to or agree with, acknowledge the speakers or speakers' views. So it is also right of everyone to accept or not to accept other opinions. And as I mentioned earlier, freedom of expression is not absolute right. It has limitation or boundaries to freedom of speech. For instance, while respecting freedom of expression, but freedom of expression cannot be justified to do libel, slander, obscenity, pornography, sedition, incitement, fighting words, classified information. So for instance, many people, for instance, ask for information from government in terms of classified information, and they were rejected, and they use, this is our freedom to seek information. So this is the limitation that apply to freedom of expression. And right to be forgotten, public security. When I think ITE has right to be forgotten, but in Europe there was a court decision to decide whether the request from individual to be forgotten should be agreed, or should be guaranteed. So there was one person requested right to be forgotten, and all information about her in Google, in all internet had been removed. So she is not traceable unless something that she allowed the information to be public. So these are some of the examples of limitation on top of the basis of what I mentioned earlier in relation to public health, public order, moral, and others. But limitation should be following if government would like to limit the freedom of expression, they have to satisfy the principle of legality. It means it should come from the court or mentioned in the law. That's the principle of legality. Necessity, if it is important, needed, and proportionality. Proportionality can mean many things, but one of the meaning is whether the limitation forever, that is not proportionality, but on certain time. So that's proportionality. So it is only based on the need, based on the context, based on what it is needed at the moment. So that is why maybe you also come across with the information that many states in ASEAN countries impose a state of emergency with the law, like in Cambodia or in Thailand, in many other countries, and they use this, they follow this what is this? The procedures as set by the international law, whether or not it is justified or it is something that different procedurally. All limitation of freedom of expression need to satisfy the principle of legality, necessity, and proportionality. This is the illustration I took from Article 19, how important information as fundamental rights during pandemic, to seek and receive information about pandemic, distribute information about COVID-19. In the earlier months of COVID-19, for instance, many journalists got arrested because of their reports on COVID-19, which government perceived them as creating a fear and panic in society. So there are a lot of different or misunderstanding about how freedom of expression and opinion can be implemented during COVID-19. But lately, after 1 year or 2 years of COVID-19, I still see number of incidences in Southeast Asia, but less. Not sure whether less information about the rest of the journalists because of no journalists have been arrested, or there is no information reached to us because now our scope is very limited to internet. So we depend so much on internet, on what to know what happened outside of our house, for instance. This is also the illustration I took from Article 19, the organization that has been working very hard on freedom of expression and produce a lot of documents, a lot of interpretation about freedom of expression opinion. You may want to look at this slides later on, and you can also Google Article 19. to know more about the organization. I'm not belong to that organization, but their work has been very helpful in my work. Now I go to practical suggestion. Given that we have our freedom of expression limited to number of situations, but it shouldn't limit you on expressing your opinion. For instance, you can use social media. You can also express your opinion through writing an op-ed for newspapers. For instance, here Jakarta Post, I write a lot of op-ed opinion editor to Jakarta Post. This is the email address of Jakarta Post. Apologies if it is redundant, but this is the common structure of the essay. Usually newspapers limit maximum for 1,000 words, but if you can write 850 to 900 words, that's better, because they have to put the space into their newspapers. So it is better to have these words, and you have to have specific argument. Limit your argument. You don't have to put everything in that essay, and you have to have a specific objective, whether you want to argue, you want to challenge your opinion, or you want to express your opinion. So this is the structure of the essay. And usually in the university, we are familiar with this illustration, introduction, and then go into what is this triangle format. Or you can use social media. This is the strategies of using social media outlet that I took. This is not me. This is the suggestion I took from the experts on social media strategies. If you look for likes, so you can talk about your milestones, your organization milestones, your journey, your achievement, motivation, quotes, and so on and so forth. But if you want to have engagement such as comments, you can have mini quiz, question and answer, discussion before and after, to attract so many comments. And if you would like to see how your content can reach out to a wider society, you can have trending, memes, update or breaking news, or you can give away. I saw a lot of in TikTok, there are a lot of videos about giving away certain cosmetic product or some, or you can have a controversies or interview product launching. If you look for saves, you can have a content like how to, step-by-step tutorial, infographic, and so on and so forth. So you can use social media to express your opinion, to tell the world on what you are dealing with, but you have to follow the ethic I mentioned earlier. You cannot put content which contain of defamation, pornography, and so on and so forth. I mentioned earlier, yeah. But use social media to educate public on your cause. So this is very. I saw more and more videos in TikTok or in YouTube or in Facebook. Someone preparing food in villages. So those who are living not in that country or living in the urban area understand, oh, that's how they prepare the food. Or, so many things that you can share as long as you follow the ethic code of the social media companies like Twitter or whatever. And then you follow all the ethical ways of how to share and create content, you are good. And some of the outlet provide what they call it, AdSense, something, the money. It can be monetized. So that's give you addition. This is my last slide.
Okay.
Give you some what is this? Some, not salary, honorarium or something, because some refugees face the problem of not able to work. So the right to work in Indonesia and also in number of countries in Southeast Asia are not guaranteed, but you can look for other option, which now the alternatives provided by the social media outlets. So that's just for your suggestion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate really your great presentation. Also, I apologize because of limitation of times, and also we considering your time. We need you. Actually, you mentioned a lot of things, a lot of benefit. Is specific for international human rights mechanism. We're going to discuss about that a lot later on. Let us to go for the second speaker from our refugee representative environment women, Sister Bibi Rahima from Afghan refugee. Please, the stage yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaki. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Bibi Rahima, a teacher, paralegal, and interpreter from Afghanistan. Thank you, Sebagai, for having me, and it's a pleasure to join this discussion today. As human right is the right and freedom that belongs to everyone from birth until death, all human beings have the same human right and individual right. The right to life, freedom of expression, the right to work, and so on. But unfortunately, today people who are forcibly evicted from their homes and countries are also deprived of their human right. As we ourselves are already experiencing in Indonesia. Thousands of refugees living in various cities in Indonesia, including Jakarta, have been deprived of their basic right. Denied the right to travel to other cities, denied the right to work, freedom of expression, criticize, and education. They don't have the religion's freedom. Those who convert to non-Muslim religions are in hiding. UN, the High Commissioner for Refugees, must defend the rights of refugees, but unfortunately they didn't, especially the time of the onset of the coronavirus. It has become clear to everyone that all refugees have been deprived of their basic right, the right to protest, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly has been taken away from them. UNHCR never tried to ask and listen to refugees' concern. And they even closed the individual counseling. It was and it is a great concern to refugees because the UNHCR prefer to talk and have some counseling with refugees representative. But you know, there is a lot of secret and a lot of message that cannot be present by refugees representative. And refugees prefer to share by themselves, but they don't have this chance. Myself, as an interpreter, I faced a lot of hardship during the pandemic. I'm an interpreter to GRS, but during the pandemic, GRS preferred to do interpreting by phone. But there were a lot of refugees who contacted me and asked me for help to accompany them to hospital. Even myself was at risk. My health was at risk, but I never hesitated to help refugees. I accompanied them to hospital because I received a lot of message from refugees. And they asked me, when we contact UNHCR and call UNHCR and CWS, they didn't respond at all. So We even cannot explain our symptoms and problems through the doctor. How we can handle it? We need your help. I have asthma myself, and it was a high risk for me to go to hospital on that tough time. But I thought it's my responsibility because these people need my help. They don't have anyone to help them. They are single mom. They are a lot of girls who live alone. They cannot speak Indonesian and English. So I have to accompany them, and I did. And also, UNHCR never tried to find a better solution for refugees. Refugees have no option and no more choice than protest. But I was experienced. Once we have protested in front of UNHCR, the police was trying to treating and beating people with force and violence. And I asked to the police, sir, you have power to beat these poor refugees. But as a human being, put yourself for 1 minute instead of these poor refugees. Can you imagine how hard is life for more than 10 years without basic rights and without family and far from family? Why you are trying to do violence against these poor people? Why you are not asking UNHCR that what is refugees' concern? Why they gathered here? And the police said, you have to leave this place. You have to go. I said, yeah, we will go right now. But we are just waiting to get a clear response and a certain response from UNHCR in this pandemic situation. Please understand us and ask UNHCR representative to come and talk with us. But we were there for 2 days. UNHCR representative didn't come and talk with us. Finally, they chose 8 representatives to go to talk with them in their office. And we went and talked with UNHCR representative, but we didn't get a clear and certain answer. That's why refugees continue their protest. But always
sorry, sister, for interrupting. You have 3 minutes left because of the time. So sorry for that. Please continue.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay. Yeah. But because always the police are treating and beating people with force and violence, many refugees saw with their mouths, and many of them passed away, commit suicide, and passed away without any voice. So in short, refugees in Indonesia, especially Afghan refugees in Indonesia, they are deprived of all fundamental rights, civil and basic human rights, because they don't have right to protest. They don't have right to criticize, freedom of expression. And I want to ask all human rights activists that it's the time to stand with refugees. Thank you, Subhaka, for support and for stand with refugees. But I would like to ask you and all human rights activists, it's the time to stand with refugees. It's the time to be refugees' voice. As you are the witness, many of refugees commit suicide and pass away without any voice. So please take an action and be refugees' voice. They need your help because they live for a decade without their basic rights. Thank you, Suwaka, for giving me this chance, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bashir.
Thank you, sister. I appreciate really the sad information we received it from you, and also I hope those people who go to God living peace there. Actually, this is our suffering here as refugee in Indonesia. We understand that you said a good thing actually in the end. This is the time to stand and support with refugee. I know that a lot of NGOs support refugee, but really, this time in pandemic exactly, we need other NGO and human rights to support refugee, because from the a lot of report we see that there's a lot of things is rising away right now, negative thing for refugee. Even we can discuss that later on with Ibu Yoyani, actually. Before we go to the question and answer, actually, I need to discuss a little bit with Ibu Yoyani. There is a question in chat books, but let me discuss with you about this thing. Maybe it's very clear from Sister Rahimi, you get this sad information. You speak about communist harm. Actually, I'm very glad and thank you for this. Actually, we have discussion with them before, and also you mentioned about international human rights mechanism. Actually, for protection human rights. Actually, we still struggle or shock about this. We don't know what's the right mechanism to follow up exactly in this pandemic period, because refugee really, they suffering. They don't know where to go. They don't know the mechanism how to report this problem. Exactly, we need a clear direction from you to the refugee and also paralegal and other supporter here. About Article 19, you mentioned that also is not a right for refugee. This first time I know that you said there is a limitation. I consider that, but you know, even the basic need, we don't have it about our expression of freedom of expression. For example, like vaccination, I try to raise this with Sweden government of Jakarta, but I didn't give chance. You know, this right for refugee right now during the pandemic, refugees, they don't have right to choose what kind of vaccination to have. It's different. Treated between local and refugee. They organized by UNHCR office. Yes, you must take some kind of vaccination we call a semi-farm. For the local is different. They have right to choose what they want. Even there is some refugee right now, they couldn't get the certificate because they get the vaccination from a personal way, for example, from Rumah Sakit UI. I thank them actually to help refugee, but they don't have certificate. So there is a lot of problem here. We need clear discussion or answering from you about this mechanism. Exactly. Thank you.
I don't have a clear answer because I'm not part of the task force on COVID-19 in Indonesia. But this is exactly the situation in which a lot of people do not know, and you need to surface it. You can use social media. So this is a rather tricky, but somehow effective. Number of governments, when we ask them personally or we visit their office and express our problem, they take it, but then that's it. But if you put it on the media, a lot of attention to it, because media is a public space. So, but when you put it on the media, media has a power to accept or not to accept. That is why it is very important to express your opinion, your stories in systematic way, and not having the element of defamation or change or challenging the reputation of others. Just focus on the topic that you are doing, and usually it works well. So I suggest that you use. I will continue to suggesting you to express your concerns to the organization, as well as to the local government or government at the national level in Indonesia, related institution, but also using other alternative means. But writing is not easy. But when you have something written down, you feel more fulfilling and clear in your mind on what you expect government to do. So, for instance, we need vaccine. We need certificate for vaccine. So that's need to be written down very clearly on what you want from the writing. So you can use all possible means. So if in the past, I was also civil society organization. I work for civil society organization. I also use different methods and approaches. Doing the campaign, doing the advocacy, policy advocacy, lobby, but also I use media to express my opinion. This is what government should do on number of issues. So somehow whatever I mentioned in media got the follow up quickly. And also, if you write something in English, but you can also write in Bahasa Indonesia if you wish, because English newspapers has bigger access, because it is the access to be written is not only in Indonesia but also beyond Indonesia, because the use of English. So I'm not. So again, I do not know about your question about Komnas HAM, but I'm happy that you talked to Komnas HAM in this program, as well as international mechanism. I know there are a number of protests, like Bibi mentioned earlier, on the role of the institutional international organization. This is also something that you might want to consider to put it on the op-ed format. You can also put it in the, if writing an essay take longer time, you can also put in the infographic. This is something that I would like to suggest for SWACA to perhaps having some sessions to address not only the content of the training, but also skills, how to convey messages, how to use social media, how to create film, how to do this, how to do that. So refugees themselves can express their call or concerns using different kind of outlets. And I found this is very important. And the world after COVID-19, or the world after pandemic, we are going to continue using technology. So it would be better to equip ourselves and familiar ourselves on how to use number of social medias. And also perhaps this is another suggestion. Now health services are provided through applications. Like now, I think the system is already rather work quite effectively during the Omicron on government providing medicines and everything for those who got infected by Omicron. So when your a test result sent to the clinic or hospital, government immediately send you the some medicines. So you don't have to leave your house. So this is possible. And this require us or refugees perhaps to be able to access some of the application, Halodoc, Allodoc, and many other applications that connect to healthcare services. I'm not sure. So for instance, Bibi mentioned about someone getting sick that cannot speak English or Bahasa Indonesia. So there is a need to have interpretation. In Halodoc and Allodoc, there are also doctors that can speak English. So you can mediate this. But I'm not sure about the transaction, because when I wanted to do PCR tests, I use Allodoc and then do the transaction in terms of paying and so on and so forth. So I'm not sure whether this can be facilitated or not. But I think it is very important for refugees to be able to access this application, because it's beyond your nationality, it's beyond your status. It is very focused on you as a person, you are human, need health services. If it is, but this is something that you may also suggest to the task force on COVID-19 on how to address the issues of non-citizen, because at the moment many governments still use this perspective of serving the citizen only, not serving the other the non-citizen. So this is the perspective that need to be changed more and more. So like for instance, like in Singapore, some migrants already have access to in that time task medicine and now vaccine, because they wanted to make sure that, I think all governments need to make sure that all citizens get access to vaccine. But we need to remind them that it is not only about citizen, it's about public health. So whoever living in the country should have access to vaccine to be able to achieve the herd immunity. So my point is, yes, we have concerns, we have problems, but we need to find ways how to convey these messages to the policymakers. You can use social media, you can use streaming media, you can use some the existing apps to be able to provide some solution and convey messages. I hope the language will not be a problem as well. Use whatever possible. If it is English, you can use English. If it is Bahasa Indonesia, you can use Bahasa Indonesia. It is very important to immediately address the concerns that require immediate response. But the longer response can use like op-ed, providing ideas to policymakers on what refugees want as a solution for this problem. So if you put it in, it is more effective when you put things on the paper. So the policymakers will be able to consider, to think, to find ways and adjust it to the context where they are in.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate. Actually, it's very clear for me your point about the media and also about other channels to refugee or NGO use with us to defend our right or basic needed. I call basic needed in Indonesia. It's very clear from you as Sister Bibi, she mentioned actually, and your information is very clear about it. I will come back to you for other question related to these issues. But before that, let me go to the chat box. Actually, there is a question from Melanie, Sister Melanie. Thank you, Ibu Yoyani. My question about ASEAN as a body. Does ASEAN have the spec to increase or push the refugee intake for resettlement to countries such as Australia or USA, since are the 3 ASEAN countries members certainly hosting refugee and only act as a transit country. Did you get the question from Sister Melanie?
Yes, thank you, Pak Sauki. Thank you, Ibu Melanie, for the questions. At the moment, ASEAN has no mechanism as such, but there is a Bali process that some member states in ASEAN use it as a platform to talk about shared responsibilities. So there has been a lot of concerns from ASEAN member states, some of ASEAN member states, on the fate of refugees in different countries in ASEAN, but at the same time, they don't have any quick solution. In the past, with the Indochina refugees, there has been a cooperation among member states in Southeast Asia, countries in Southeast Asia, and third countries for settlement. That was achieved. Surely the process had been very long, but they achieved a certain commitment. Now the context is different. Mechanisms are a lot now, but seems like none of them work quickly as before. But at the moment, I think some member states, not ASEAN, some member states of ASEAN engage the discussion on shared responsibilities through Bali process. It has been already there for years, and I understand there was no solution. Even some refugees wanting to go to Australia had been located in Nauru and number of countries in Pacific. So I'm not sure about that. Perhaps third countries need to be, the option of third countries need to be expanded, not only Australia, but other countries. I talked to refugees from Rohingyas refugees. They also come up with number of suggestions. For instance, of course, going back to Myanmar is one option. The other option is resettlement to the third country. But they also come up with the idea of bringing or opening fellowship program for refugees, so they can move to the other countries without having a status of refugees. So they are fellowship recipients. So again, this is the idea that had been floating around in number of countries. But just to answer your question quickly, in ASEAN there is no mechanism as such. The issue of refugee hardly discussed in ASEAN as a regional organization. Rather, ASEAN used the other mechanism, which is Bali process. In ASEAN, not only 2 countries ratified the convention, Cambodia and the Philippines, but no one looked at Philippines as the third country for settlement either. Philippines open up for being the third country, but seems like this is not the destination countries for many refugees as well. So yes, that it's at the moment. In IHR, we haven't discussed about a third country or resettlement, but rather to talk about the issue of refugee step by step through different channels. So at least the issue can be accepted as a regional problem that we need to provide solution. So we are at that a level at the moment in relation to refugee issues.
Thank you for answering this question. I hope so you can do a lot of things, a lot of activity for these issues as possible. Sister Melanie, if you have any remark about that, later on you can unmute yourself. Suaka, please help me if there is any question from as a participant, you can raise your hand, and after that, Suwaka, they allowed you to speak. Before that, actually, I have question for Sister Bibi later on. I coming back for you, Sister. Ibu Yoyani, you mentioned that about Article 19 and Article 23. Inside that, there is a protection for women and children and so on. So in terms about these regulations, you know, the best way right now for refugees to express the freedom of opinion, demonstrations. We have a lot of problem we're facing right now. For that, we're suffering. We know this challenge for us, but there is no other way actually for refugee to express this kind of opinion. We go there, but unfortunately, the kids and women, they face kind of violations from police or from security. Even sometimes we cannot know our right in this step. Please, could you explain more about this, or your advice, your experience also, what we can do for that to get our right? Because we go by peacefully way to protest and ask about our rights. Thank you.
There are always ways. So I'm very optimistic person. So even with this whole crisis, we should be able to find ways. Of course, your experience and valid, but it is very important to see possibilities. If your concerns related to Indonesia, for instance, services for Indonesians, again, please learn about apps that provided by government in terms of COVID-19, in terms of some services. You can ask Suwaka, maybe can provide information about the existing apps that can be used and English friendly information, for instance, or talk to, well, this is for Suwaka, not for you. Suwaka can also engage with some startups or can work with young people who work on coding, so they can create an apps that can link to the government. Local government like Jakarta has an apps too. So for instance, if citizen found there is a hole on the road or the street, they can take a picture and then send the picture to the local government in Jakarta, so they can come together. So these apps that then link you to the existing services from government perhaps need to be known, need to be used, need to be tested whether it works or not working for refugees. So that's so please find all possibilities. And second, again, I would like to return to my initial ideas, suggestion of using social media. We have a lot of outlets, and we can use. Now, young people try to raise awareness about a number of issues using TikTok, because TikTok provide, like so many ways of expressing your concerns. National Human Rights Commission in Philippines also use TikTok to tell the people, if you have a problem, you can go to this number, that number. So this is something that you may want to consider using to raise your problem. You can also not only TikTok, you can use Facebook, you can use many outlets. You can, as long as you got access to internet and you have account to the social media. If you like to write, you can also do writing in to express your concerns better, because that the writing should be should be reliable, and you should be responsible for whatever you write in social media. But using social media need to be very wise, need to be responsible, because a lot of a lot of scandals, a lot of issues also related to your expression in social media. But again, as long as you follow the ethic, you have to be very careful on what you want to post, and you have to have an objectives on your messages, not just because you are angry and then you put something. It maybe work for some citizen, maybe not work for the others. You see all the problem already. According to women and children in Jakarta, in provincial government, they also have a unit specifically on women and children. Perhaps I cannot remember under this government, but previous governor, there was an app that you can send your grievances, and then the staff of the governor, the previous governor, will be able to reach you very quickly in terms of phone number. They can call you, they can email you, they can even physically come to your house whenever you need. So, but again, this is the previous governor. I'm not sure now, but I think you can explore this kind of services. Now, more and more local government, provincial government provide right to education for children. Not all, but this is something that many civil society and researchers try to push government to call for right to education for children, for child refugees across Indonesia. And when children can go to school, then there are a number of following rights that come to that rights. So this is something that perhaps can be checked as well, whether the local government has this program on right to education. What else in terms of women and children? Yeah, I think so. I do not have any information at hand right now on services provided by local governments, but you can always check and maybe again Suaka can help to have a list of services provided by local governments on your issues.
Yeah, thank you, really. I appreciate your answering and your advice. It's such clear for us. Actually, to be honest, so before we don't use this platform media exactly to express our opinion or freedom of opinion. Actually, we try to catch media who work in TV or work in journal or radio to discuss with them to deliver our message to society, to the society or government. This is great way. Actually, I appreciate from you. I think our time is out. If there is no one raise the hand to ask the question, the last question it will be for Bibi, and also I think there is someone actually he sent for us a greeting. He brother Hamid. Thank you for your messages. Yeah, he said, thank you. I get good information from you before I cannot know the way to report or to know that. So there is information already refugees. I get it. We appreciate you for that. Sister Bibi, are you still with us here?
Yes,
Just one question,
Mr.
very
Shakir,
quick,
sure.
actually. Yes, as a refugee in Indonesia or asylum seeker, actually, we know the challenge we facing right now. And do you did before anything to approach or refugee community to be one hand, to solidarity? We know if we will be one hand, we can do things. As leadership, as interpreter, do you raise this for SWACA or other NGO or discuss with your community to be solidarity as one hand to protect our right in Indonesia? Please, the stage yours.
Thank you, Mr. Shaki, for this good question. Actually, yes, I did. I discussed with refugees community and encouraged them to be one hand and to raise your voice together for your right and for your protection. But still, I'm working on that, Mr. Shaki. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sister Bibi. Actually, I needed to ask this question because I need to remind or encourage any leadership here, even the society or as a local, to support refugee, actually to be one hand to ask, because this long time actually we're suffering here. We need to find a way. Thank you, all of you. Actually, I appreciate your participation today for this event, and thank you for SWACA and all the speakers. This such full empowerment for us as refugee in Indonesia is good information and good response from you and also our head of SWACA here. We need more from you. Actually, we're waiting. We need to learn more things from you. I hope this is not the end, but just the last of this session. We hope from SWACA we have another session to discuss more about this information because it's very important for refugee. Just I want to remind you all participants before we go in to finish that, we need to take picture together by Brother Angga from SWACA for just a documentation. Thank you. I appreciate all of you. Thank you. And forgive us if there is any mistake exactly about the time. I appreciate.
If I may to convey the final say. So I would like to express the message that we are all concerned about your life. We of course your experience. We cannot understand fully your experience, but we know through you how difficult it is living as refugees. So we work together. We have a different roles. Myself at the ASEAN level and some NGOs working at the local level, at the national level. But the most important thing is to make our voices, our work coherent. Unfortunately, there is nothing quick in addressing the refugee issues. This is known everywhere in the world. But we continue working. We continue having our commitment, our passion for humanity and human rights together. I think that's important. I think it is very important also to educate Indonesians about integrating different cultures and open up for different cultures, not only open for different cultures in Indonesia because we are very plural, but also other cultures. So a part of advocating together with refugees on the right of refugees and human rights in general, but we also need to engage society to open up more acceptance. But please rest assured that we are working with you. But unfortunately, there is no quick answers. What we should do is to widen possibilities. So some of the concerns can be addressed in different times, sometimes quicker, sometimes longer, depending on services. But again, your stories, if you share more stories, that would help us to understand better. When we understand the problem, perhaps we can together find solution, perhaps. But yeah, I think I do not want to say that we are in this together, but we work together on this particular issue. You are not alone. Because in human rights, we work on all general human rights, specific human rights, and Suaka has been very helpful in leading the way. Sometimes I listen to Suaka's webinars as well in YouTube to get some ideas on what I should argue in ASEAN level or in ICHR level. And I thank you very much for your insights. Maybe you don't know that I steal some of the ideas from your webinars. And I also thank for refugees for being very open in sharing your life stories. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Of course, we do, and we appreciate you for your listening to us. Of course, we will be together, working together. We hope your support for us. I appreciate. Before Brother Angga he take picture, just I want to remind you quick to fill the attendance list in chat box. Please don't forget. And Brother Angga, please.
I think Sister Bibi would like to give her closing speech, I guess. If Sister Bibi would
yes,
like.
please. So sorry. Sister Bibi, if you have anything you wanted to say or deliver, please, the stage yours.
Thank you, Mr. Shoki and Mr. Angga for the chance. Yeah, I want to just add that I learned about the peaceful demonstration in Suaka, and I learned about that. And I always try to and encourage refugees to have a peaceful demonstration. As you maybe know about the social media, and maybe you saw in social media, we always try to have a peaceful demonstration. And it's the reason is I learned it from Suaka. And thank you very much, Suaka, for helping us and standing with us. We need your support more. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate, Sister Bibi, your such great word from you. I appreciate that. Stage yours, Brother Angga.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Syauqi. As Pak Syauqi mentions, we will have a brief photo session. So if all the participants are willing to open their cameras to have another adequate documentations, please do so. Okay. We only have one slide actually, so it won't take much time. I will count to 3. 1, 2, 3, smile. One more time. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, that's it. Thank you, Brother Syauqi.
Thank you, Brother Angga. We appreciate you, all of you. This is the end of this session, not the end of this program from Suaka. We're looking forward from Suaka to have another session. I appreciate from you all the speaker and all the participants and all Suaka teams and also our head of Suaka. I appreciate. Thank you. See you in next time.
Thank you, everyone. See you.
Thank you, everyone, and see you in the next session.
Sister Bibi, can we have a little debrief before?
Yes, brother, sorry.
Okay.
Before you leave, don't forget to fill the in chat box. There is a link. Please click and fill.
Sudah semua, Pak Syauqi.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, thank you, Brother Syauqi and Sister Bibi, for sparing your time. Pak Syauqi, you did a really great job as moderator. We really thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a great moderate by you and also a great session. Sister Bibi also, we are very thankful for your beautiful speech before, and also another additional informations in the Q&A session.
Thank you, brother.
Did both of you would like to add an evaluations maybe or other informations you would like to give Swaka, Pak Syauqi atau Sister
Yeah, go
Bibi?
first, Sister Bibi, if you have something.
I just would like to thank Suwaka for this session,
Hmm.
and it will be good if we have another session, and the topic will be about the peaceful demonstration. It will help us more. Thank you very much. That's all.
Okay. Before we go to Pak Syauqi, Sister Bibi, yes, we will have another series because it's a number of discussion series. But if I'm not mistaken, we already have a series with a topic of how to conduct safe demonstration. But we will take it as our considerations because maybe we can discuss about the right to peaceful assembly or other point of view that we may discuss later. Thank you so much for your suggestion, Sister Bibi.
Thank you, brother.
Ya, Pak Syauqi, ada yang mau disampaikan?
Yeah, terima kasih, Mbak. Before that, let me say I apologize actually for the times because the introductions they take a lot of times, and I think everything is good from the both of speaker and also the facilitate from Suwaka. Just I hope in the future we have more time for the discussion because I see the discussion has become warm. I know there's a lot of question also. As time I think is not enough. And also if it will be more participant because time when we share the information, they take longer time, you know, refugee. For example, if you have any kind of event before that, by 1 day or 2 days, you share with them, not for a long time. So we can achieve that there is a lot of people get benefit from what we have in program in future. That is all from me, actually. Thank you, and forgive me about the mistake.
No worries at all, brother. It was great moderate by you, and we will take notes of your advice.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the discussions very warm today, and yeah, I do agree with the time limitations. I think if it would be good that we, if we have more time, but yeah, Sister Yuyun is one of the great representative of states, and she had many agendas today. So unfortunately, we didn't have. But yeah, it is well noted, and we will do much better in other session of the discussions onwards. Thank you so much once again, Pak Syauqi and Sister Bibi. Mbak Tika, mungkin ada yang mau ditambahkan atau Kak Vin?
Dariku nggak ada. Thank you Pak Syauqi and Bibi Rahima for today's session. Thank you so much for your participation and support